Hello and welcome back to my channel. I'm Brent Bowers and this is my money. Now, I had to do it. I just had to do it. I had to make another AMC video. I do have an invested interest into it and there's a lot going on. And in my last video right here, I said I might do another one, so here we are. Now, if you did click on the video, and I promise you it's not clickbait, you already know what I'm talking about. The level of FUD that's being spread around online about the AMC and the ape movement is astronomically high. Why? Because the hedgies and the short sellers out there have their hands in every facet of communication possible. They're gonna stop at nothing to spread as much FUD. And it really doesn't matter where it is. It could be on Facebook, Reddit, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, any type of communication the hedgies have their hands in, and they're going to stop at nothing to discredit the ape movement and AMC as much as humanly possible. The reason why they're doing this is to make sure that the consumer sentiment to either buy at the dip or hold AMC is met with as much resistance as humanly possible to get the paper hands to sell early and to push the price down as low as it can possibly go. I do have a few examples that I wish to point out to you guys to back up what I'm saying, just to make sure this isn't clickbait, that I want to point out and highlight that I think is pretty interesting that happened over, I want to say, the last couple of months since April. The information coming out of these financial news sources and online articles and media and everywhere you go to look up AMC is progressively becoming more and more fuddy as we go on, as the price rallies for AMC. And I do have a few examples that I want to point out to you guys. Okay, the number one thing I want to bring up is the level of anti-AMC flack here and FUD being spread has gotten progressively worse over the last few months, and I believe that was a mistake on their end, is to assume that they were a neutral financial media source spreading, let's say, accurate media reporting about AMC, and they have been caught in a few lies. And it's proven to me that obviously you can't really trust them going forward with the amount of FUD out there, and therefore any respectable news coming from there are also misleading and misguided or outright lying. Case in point, the over-reliance on fundamentals, bringing this up, a lot of apes have heard this time and time again, is the amount of fundamentals being relied upon as a variable to springboard off of, and everybody knows that this is not a fundamental type of position. This is a short squeeze position. The apes are here for a good time, not a long time. Now, the first example I want to give you is, of course, from the Motley Fool. Who would expect? And they have an article, why AMC Entertainment shares are down nearly 10% today. I'll spare you the entire article, but it goes into, of course, matching fundamentals, obviously playing a big role in the assessment of AMC, and it's just why it's trending sideways is a direct result of fundamentals, again using, of course, what people know to be negative and not applicable to AMC as a resource when they make this article. And then at the end of the article, of course, give a recommendation for tech plays that they're also shorting, saying that you should invest in this and not AMC. It's a big fluff, it's a big lie. Going down, and number two example from Market Insider, short sellers say AMC fundamentals are obvious and that the meteoric run in the theater operating stock is nearing its end. Of course, that's a lie. The article goes on to again highlight fundamentals, which of course aren't really applicable for this type of short squeeze situation. This adds a more fluff, more FUD in the article, going through it to analyze the short squeeze position. Number three is going to be the Market Insider. AMC stock will continue to do well despite bad fundamentals. If you read this one's actually not that bad. It's pretty neutral. It actually goes into explaining fundamentals a little bit and whether or not they are in fact applicable to this type of situation. However, it's kind of painting a broad type of situation where they say, oh, bad fundamentals. They still highlight fundamentals as if that's a tool you would want to be using. Example number four, who's this by? Let's see, IBD, Investors Business Daily. Is AMC stock a buy or sell now? Here's what fundamentals have said. Stock chart action, mutual fund ownership metrics say. Of course, this speaks for itself, again using fundamentals as a positive thing to highlight AMC. Again, you don't want to use fundamentals. This isn't a fundamental play. So why would they use something that's not applicable? Why? To spread fear and doubt and uncertainty. That's why. And number 5, seeking alpha. The meme stock phenomenon has been fascinating to watch. AMC has been the poster child of the WSB crowd. While the share price has defied fundamentals, once again, this never lasts forever. Of course, it goes on to the best times are behind AMC. Poor fundamentals, again, threat of dilution, not the time to be greedy, liquidate your shares and get out while it's ahead, assuming that the short squeeze already happened, highlighting fundamentals, and again, just spreading as much FUD as possible. Of course, one of these articles actually highlights the Iceberg Research, which I'm really going to get into right now, and spreading more FUD about that is pretty interesting once you take a deep dive into those topics and kind of uncover that a lot of these financial news sources are just springboarding off of one another. They obviously have an invested interest in the hedgies, either are shorting the stock or they want the share price to go down as much as humanly possible to discredit AMC as much as possible. So it is rather interesting to go into these articles and find out that they're just springboarding off of one another, making as much fluff and spreading as much FUD as humanly possible, which is pretty interesting and it's pretty sad. To back all of this up, consider the following. How many of the financial media sources that I just highlighted actually make reference to dark pool data? How many of them make reference to naked shorting, corruption, lawsuits, married puts, the issuance of new bonds instead of saying newly traded bonds? It's stuff like that. They have a big manipulation spin on how the information is presented. How many of them actually talk about those things? Well, none of them do. Why is that? Because that would be counterproductive on their part, because obviously they have an invested interest on short selling AMC, and then they want to back up the quote-unquote smart money to spread as much FUD as humanly possible and to get AMC down as much as humanly possible. That would be counterproductive for them. Why? Because they don't want to shed light onto something that would put a negative on Citadel or the big hedge funds. They just want to keep focusing on the negatives of AMC by using inadequacies such as fundamentals. I know that a bunch of you fellow YouTubers out there and fellow apes watching this, you already know what I'm talking about when I say you've met with as much FUD resistance out there as I have. Why is that? Because their next move would be to, of course, tell you that the short squeeze has already happened. Buy this stock instead. Buy this has gone up, 1,000%. AMC is trending sideways. There's no volume. It's already over. The short squeeze happened. It's not a good stock. The fundamentals, they're going to keep pumping negative information and just focus on the negative information. That's how you know there's a big cover up, is because they never talk about all the things that put hedge funds or short sellers into disrepute and highlight negatives that could potentially increase the price of AMC. The next point I want to shout out to you fellow apes is, of course, red flags and current events. Now, I'm not quite sure how far down the rabbit hole I can go with this, but I do want to bring up something interesting with Iceberg Research. So I know that you've seen this quote-unquote research firm, Iceberg Research, making its rounds on Reddit and Twitter and YouTube, citing its position against AMC, shorting AMC because of fundamentals. And the main analyst behind this is Arnaud Vagner, which is a bit interesting to say the very least. Now, first of all, Arnaud Vagner is incredibly hard to locate, and that's a red flag for me. I don't know about you guys, but if somebody is being cited on all these financial media sources as a main super popular analyst that work for this big research firm, and nobody can find you, that's a bit red flag to me. So I did some digging, and as it turns out, Arnaud Vagner is in fact a French international student or international analyst that started working in Hong Kong for a financial research firm called the Noble Group. And he worked there for, I think, 2 years until 2013, in which case he was fired, and then 2 years later, started working for Iceberg Research, and in 2015 started to spread negative sentiment about Noble Group, claiming disproportionate financial reporting, in which case he was involved into a lawsuit, in which case Noble Group started to sue Arnaud Vagner, stating that the amount of negative sentiment towards that group was inaccurate and ill-founded. Another red flag is that to this date, the financial dealings of Arnaud Vagner and the Noble Group are unknown, since it did go to the Hong Kong legal system, and it was eventually thrown out due to unknown reasons. It's kind of hard to get any type of information circling around that lawsuit, why he was let go in 2015, why he decided to say those things about Noble Group. So it is a possibility that he's just fabricating this entire thing as one gigantic story, and then the financial news sources are picking this up and saying, oh, this guy made this findings and he destroyed this company, so this is what he's saying about AMC, so he must be correct, which is completely false. On top of all of this, another red flag that I have for you guys is that depending on where you go to find information about Vagner or Iceberg Research, you're going to get a lot of different information. It's very, very hard to find accurate, definitive data on this guy, or Iceberg Research for that matter. Case in point, one of the main sources that I cited earlier said that Vagner joined Iceberg Research in 2015, and then the Rutgers article that I cited said that he launched Iceberg Research in 2015. So does that mean does he work there? Does he own it? Did he launch it? Is he the only analyst there? It's kind of hard to pin that down, because it seems like regardless of what you do or where you go, or what source of information you use, it seems to me that it's just Vagner making this stuff up. I did want to find out more information about Vagner and Iceberg Research, so I did what an ape would do when he wants to get more information, perform DD and go to the actual main Iceberg Research main webpage. And lo and behold, another red flag pops up. Wouldn't you know it? The web page looks like a copy and paste job, like a high school class put this together an hour before their presentation. It's just really, really shady looking. Now, case in point, I want to highlight something really quick. Even Citadel, like look at Citadel's main web page. They have where their offices are located, the phone numbers, the actual board of directors, job openings. The page is very, very well developed. In the case of Iceberg Research, it's not. It's just like a copy and paste. Put this up very, very quickly to make it seem like you're reputable. I think Vagner is the only person working there. I think he's the only employee. He actually launched it in 2015 to give the idea that Iceberg Research is this large hedge fund, you know, going against AMC. It's just Vagner. Why do I bring up Citadel as an example? Because at Iceberg Research, you can't find anything. The location? Nope. Phone numbers? Nope. Other analysts that are working there? Nope. Board of directors? Nope. Careers? Nope. You can't find anything on this supposed research firm. So I bring this up to you fellow apes, to fellow YouTubers, as a point of validity. The reason why I say this is a red flag among all the others is because if you're attempting to highlight something against AMC and nobody can find basic information about you or your research firm, it kind of puts into disrepute what you're saying, and the validity of your position is put in question. And so that's just interesting to me. If you perform your DD and look into this, you see it's very on the surface type of research that Vagner obviously presented. He has his position and he uses fundamentals as another example, which I've highlighted previously as a BS variable to use in regards to AMC. And by extension of all this, if big financial media sources like The Motley Fool, Market Watch, Investor Business Daily, Market Palace, and all these other research quote-unquote blogs are using Vagner's tweet as a springboard to launch against AMC, it puts them into disrepute even further. So it's just it's a gigantic cluster of manipulation, and I just don't trust anything coming from this guy or this supposed research firm or any kind of FUD that these guys are spreading. So in closing, I'm going to say to you fellow apes, be wary of the next round of FUD that comes in, because it seems to come in waves. As AMC is making a comeback from I think a low of 38 back into the 40 range, high 40s, and maybe in some 50s next week. I think the Citadel and the hedge funds and short sellers and FUD spreaders are beginning to realize that the apes aren't going to go anywhere without a big fight, and they are just holding on, buying the dips, and being as ruthless as possible. So it's beginning to send a clear message to these guys that they're in for a fight. And good for us, because the longer we stretch this out, the harder it is for them to hold on to their positions. So I'm glad about that. ape strong ape nation going into this is going to be a battle, and that's exactly what they're going to get. FUD aside, it's going to be easier for us just to hold on to play this thing out as long as humanly possible, drag them out, make them bleed money, which is precisely what they're doing. And that is pretty much all I have for you guys today. I might do another AMC video. Again, I do have an invested interest on this particular company. I do like the stock. I do like the momentum. I have made quite a bit of money already on my positions. So I'm holding strong just like you guys are. Ignore the FUD. They're realizing that they're in for a fight, and I think the next round of FUD is gonna come pretty quick. Who knows what it's gonna be? It's probably gonna be another analyst out of the blue somewhere, another hedge fund saying this, another law that just more and more things that are going to come out that are negative against AMC. And pay attention to this specifically because they're never going to talk about dark pools. They're never going to talk about anything negative that might put the hedgies into disrepute, which is something that we have to hold on to going into the future, holding on to AMC, buying the dips, and being strong for our fellow apes. I'm Brent Bowers, and this is my money. I'll see you guys in the next one.